Hello everybody and welcome back to Ballincraig estate. Trevor and the young man are standing here looking at the rubble. It's been a little while since the building collapsed after that frightful autumn storm, but they haven't been able to start clearing it out or get rid of anything because they are waiting. There seems to be a long argument going on between the solicitors who are looking after the will of the young man's uncle and the insurance company. Trevor was right indeed. The young man did go and dig through some of the paperwork and finally started paying a bit of attention to some of the bills that he'd been kind of paying that he assumed was just part of running the farm. It steps over to Trevor. Well, we should hear something, I think late on today. They said that somebody was going to come out and take a final look and decides what's going to happen.
Aye, says Trevor. Well, you just watch out. They're slippery, those people in suits. Anyway, I'm going to go and sort out the cows, because today, you know what day it is.
The young man nods. He's been on the phone with Thomas and Henry from a bit up the road. They're going to help out by wrapping silage bales for the farm in return for getting 2 fields worth of the silage bales to take back to their farm. They also lent the farm here a skid steer while the young man was getting his tractor repaired after it being filled with some corrosive things that had been mixed into the fuel tank. Generally, quite a lot of pretty bad things have been happening on this farm, the young man reflects. But, you know what? It's autumn, we're getting grass cut. It'll be winter soon enough and we'll need feed for the cows.
Trevor nods. Aye, and I better take care of them now, and you better get on with that grass cutting.
So without further ado, Trevor heads over to find the bobcat so that he can get on with sorting out the cows, get them cleaned out a bit, get them fed. There's plenty of hay and there is still some silage, but it's not going to be enough to see them through winter. So Trevor clambers in the front of the bobcat and sets to the job. Just as the young man is starting to think about heading off to get those grass cutting underway, his phone rings. It's Mike, the mechanic who's been working on his Massey Ferguson front loader.
Oh, that is good news, Mike. Actually, if it's okay, I'll be down in like a couple of hours. I just want to get the first grass cutting underway and see how that goes. Okay, thanks.
So the good news is that Mike has actually finished repairing the front loader tractor now, and it's ready to come back to the farm. It did cost the young man about £5,000 to get it fixed. It was expensive and no amount of insurance was really going to cover that. But the young man is going to be spending a long time inside this old machine today because it's time to get the grass cut underway. There are a lot of fields to get through, and Thomas and Henry will be coming down the following day to start help wrapping the bales. So there's no time like the present. Might as well start in this field, the young man thinks to himself. The machine is here. It's a bit of an awkward one to move around, generally speaking. It's great for cutting, but moving around the fields is a bit trickier. So I'll see how I get on with this field, and then I can head down to Mike and get that sorted out afterwards. Get my tractor picked up. So the young man gets the header off. It's a nice wide header for this machine. It's quite a neat thing once it gets going, but it can be a bit temperamental sometimes. The young man gets underway of the first of this autumn grass cutting. In springtime, when he had not long ago arrived on the farm to take over from his recently passed uncle, the grass cutting got started while it was still quite cold. Whoops, he notices that this gate is still open. He wonders if that's how they came in to contaminate the fuel, but there's no time to wonder about that now. Yeah, so when he was doing the grass cutting back in spring, it was actually still very cold and wet, and he was trying to do a lot of things by himself. He hadn't met Helen back then, and he actually fell ill for a while. But this time around, he feels he's a little bit more on top of it. He knows and understands what's going on, and the grass is looking nice and thick and ready for a cut. And while the young man is getting started on the grass cutting, Trevor is getting the cows cleaned out and making sure that they have plenty of feed in their troughs, although there's still plenty of lush grass up on their field as well. Trevor digs into the silage that was created during springtime, and it's good quality, but there's definitely not going to be enough left in there for the winter. Trevor closes the gate and climbs back onto the Deutz. He can see the young man is working over in the field, and he's actually making a fairly quick process here of getting the field cut. There's not much left.
Maybe I should head over and help get it baled up,
he thinks to himself. And with the water tanker getting parked back up over in the field, Trevor is getting ready to start helping out with some baling. It's a weekend day, so Trevor has time to help out a bit more on the farm than he otherwise would have, if he can get this cow to move a bit so he can get the tractor out here.
Yeah, come on now.
Trevor gets the old round baler hooked up. He had to put a new roll of netting into it, but he's kind of gotten to grips with how this thing works. It's been a huge favor that Mike has lent them this baler for basically the whole year. It's made a big difference. The only problem is you kind of do have to drive over fresh crop right here on the corner to get into the field where he needs to start the baling. But it looks like there's plenty of grass on the field, and the young man's just about done. The young man's finishing the very last pass as he sees Trevor roll in and starting to get the baler ready. He frantically waves at him to stop and jumps out. "Trevor!" he shouts. "We gotta head down and pick up the other Massey before we get this done." Trevor looks down at the young man.
"Oh, it's ready, is it? Mike must have been working hard on it. Okay, laddie. I'll take the car down and you can drive the Massey up. I'll just cut this off for now."
So Trevor and the young man quickly gets into the car and heads down to Mike's. "I'm glad we'll get the tractor back," says the young man as they're driving down.
"Yep," says Trevor. "That thing has been on the farm for ages. It's a solid piece of machinery. and I'm glad to see that Mike has managed to get it repaired.
The young man nods. Yeah, it was expensive, but it was worth it. It's part of the farm, that tractor. Before long, the young man has arrived. You take an admiring look at his new tractor. Mike's in there. He's just got to get the front loader bit mounted back on, and the young man's going to help with that, while Trevor heads back up and gets the baling underway. It's not long before Mike and the young man has got everything mounted back on again. The young man is looking in awe. The engine is running really well. Everything, it almost feels like a new tractor. He jumps in and takes a look around. Well, Mike's definitely done a good job. He feels a little bit embarrassed because Mike has obviously also cleaned up the cab, but he thanks Mike's many times. Obviously, he's already paid, and Mike tells him that the money did cover for all the repairs that were needed. So it is with a huge relief that he can finally bring back the old front loader Massey to the farm. He's very much appreciated being able to use the Bobcat that Thomas and Henry lent them, but this machine belongs on Ballincraig. Trevor's been working for a while, and he's just replacing some netting into the machine when he hears the young man shout from the top of the hill. The young man waves excitedly and heads over to Trevor. "Trevor! We got the tractor back!"
"Oh, I'm glad to hear that, laddie," shouts Trevor over the engine. "I better get on with the baling, though. We gotta get up to those top fields that Thomas and Henry will need, so they can see that, we're not just trying to do our own stuff first."
The young man nods. "But we can now use the Massey or the Deutz to pull up the header, so it's not gonna be as bad. How about we get that done before, and then I can continue on the baling down here if you want to do cut?"
"Okay," says Trevor. "Maybe a certain young lady will be back soon. She could help out a bit."
The young man smiles. "Helen's away today. She's back in town. She's doing some kind of art exhibit again. I think she's been selling some of her paintings."
"Ah, that's good, laddie. That's good. And the sheep are doing fine. We're looking after them for her in the meantime. But, we better get going then."
The young man decides that although he would love to drive around in the Massey fully refurbished, the Deutz is probably a better job for pulling the trailer. You need a small tractor, as you can get around corners to get that header and its trailer into the fields. It was a bit tight last time. It's not really a task he's been looking forward to having to repeat, but needs must. Trevor is sitting ready in the cutter to get the header disconnected and loaded onto this trailer. So Trevor gets the header unhooked and signals for the young man to go first so he can get around the corners without anything being in the way. Of all the things the young man has had to turn in this tight yard, this header trailer is probably the one he likes the least. It is it's wide, and the load can shift quite easily, he's found. So he always finds that it's best to take it very, very easy and be careful and aware of any traffic. Trevor keeps a bit of distance with the mower because he knows the young man tends to get quite tense when he's navigating with that header, and so he gives him a little bit of space. But before too long, he's heading down the narrow path that leads out to the fields as well, and with no sign of the young man, he can only assume, and indeed here he is, sitting waiting up at the old shed. Young man hops down to help show Trevor how to get lined up. Trevor lines up. He's obviously driven this machine many a time, so the young man can quickly get the bolts latched in, so Trevor can get on with the cut. After the young man helped Trevor get started up in the top field, he came back and finished baling the first field. Thomas showed up just as he was finishing up, much to his pleasant surprise. It was great to see such a new machine in action here on Ballincraig estate, but the young man had to rush back up again because Trevor called and said that he was finished, and they're just trying to get the header navigated through to the neighboring field while Thomas is busy wrapping up bales here on one of the fields close to the farm. The young man is standing. "Oh, it's so close, but that wheel is still touching," he shouts. "You need to turn a bit more." "It's no good," shouts Trevor. "You're gonna have to go down and get the Deutsch tractor. That truck can't pull it. It can't lift the header, it's too heavy." The young man agrees and rushes down. He'd just taken the pickup truck because he wasn't sure exactly whether they could get it through, but once again the tight gates on Ballincraig estate seems to have gotten the better of that mower. It's a wonderful piece of machinery when it's in the field and working, but trying to navigate it through the tight lanes around here makes the young man wonder whether they would be better off with a slightly bigger tractor perhaps, or simply a simpler mower to run behind the tractor. But he doesn't waste time. He simply parks up and hops over into the Deutsch tractor. He kind of feels like he should go up and tell Thomas that he's heading back, but he reckons if he gets going he'll be done sooner, and Thomas is still working over in the field. There's plenty to be getting on with today. And right enough, as the young man is heading down to get that stubborn header trailer into the field, Thomas is simply working his way through the bales. The young man's feeling rushed today. There's so much going on the farm, it's kind of invigorating, but he's almost forgetting about all the debacle going on between insurance companies and lawyers and whatnot. There's real farming work to be done today. Trevor's kind of pulled in, so there's space to get the tractor hooked up. With the tractor, this should be a much easier job. With a tractor with a much narrower turning radius, the trailer slips through the gates in no time at all. Trevor can now back the mower back out, and without having to pull a header trailer, it's a lot less cumbersome to get through the gates. Young man standing ready to hook the header up. take long to get the controls attached. Trevor also doesn't seem to be wanting to waste time, and is quickly over towards the edge of the field to get the cutter going. This is a fairly large field as well. The young man unhooks the header trail as Trevor sets off and hops back on the old Deutsch tractor. Ha! It might be old and it might be small, but it sure is handy. In a tight turn like this, he grins to himself. And as he shoots down the lane, he's feeling pretty good about the fact that they're getting the silage in for the winter. And although he's been a bit down in the dumps about everything that's been happening on the farm, he turned down an offer of a serious amount of life-changing money to hang on to this farm, and he's starting to feel a slight hint of optimism again that this could actually work. Thomas has been trying to organize the wrap bales into groups so they'll be easier to get them lifted onto a trailer when that comes down from the farm to help out as well. But obviously these bales actually belong to Ballincraig estate, not to Thomas and Henry's farm, but he still feels like this is how they would do it back home, and it just makes sense to try and get them together and make the job a little bit easier overhead. The young man half runs up onto the field to get back into the massey, but he can't help but just steal a little glance. He could see that Thomas is now working down at the bottom of the field. Ha! It's nice to see such a new modern machine here on Ballincraig, even if it's way too big for kind of really working this tight yard. It still feels kind of cool, but he is still quite pleased with his 2 masseys and the Deutsch tractor, and it's time to get up to the top field and get some baling done. And as the young man roll up to start baling, he can see Trevor in the other field. He knows Thomas is down on the other one. And suddenly there's work going on in 3 fields here on Ballincraig estate. It's starting to feel a bit like, yeah, like a proper farm, thinks the young man to himself. With just a couple of strips left, the young man has produced a lot of bales in the field. Over on the neighbouring field, although a little hard to see from here, Trevor has completed the mowing, so there's another full field to bale today, and it's already about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But the young man isn't feeling tired. He is feeling energetic. He knows that he's got friends, and Trevor, who is a friend of course as well in many ways, helping out today. Helen's going to be back later on, but he realizes she's been away on business with her art, so she might not exactly in the mood for helping, but they have got so much done today already. And the young man feels like before he starts on the next field. He needs to go down and see how Thomas is getting on. They're probably going to leave the mower up in the field just for now, because one of the priorities here will be to get the baling and wrapping done up in these two fields at least, so that they feel that Thomas and Henry is getting their payment all said and done. So he pulls the bale into the next field, but stops the tractor, breathes a bit. That silence just after you stop the engine, and he can't help but just go back and take a look at the field. That is a good crop of bales for them in here, he smiles to himself. And we're getting a good deal out of this with getting silage made quick and easy this time around. He signals down to Trevor. There's nothing really for it except for taking an afternoon stroll down to the farm. They can cut through a couple of bushes and fields here on foot, and then they'll get down and see how Thomas is doing. The young man and Henry walks up to Thomas just as he's about to drop the last of the wrapped bales. There's quite a lot on this field as well, they smile to each other. As the last bale tips off, the young man grins up to Thomas, who jumps out of the tractor. "Oh, thank you, Thomas," says the young man with a big smile on his face, and Trevor grins too. Yeah, lad, that's a really good start, but you'll be happy to know we've got 2 more fields to do." Thomas looks a little bit uneasy. Lads, I know I came down to help today, but I do have to get back up and do the feeding, but just hang on a minute and I'll phone my dad. I'll meet you down by the house. Trevor and the young man looks a little bit bemused. "Oh, I hope we haven't put him out," says the young man, "by doing too much. Tell you what, we'll make a cup of tea and we'll see what's up." Thomas brings down the big Massey Ferguson quite carefully, as it's the first time he's visited Ballincraig estate, and he realizes it is quite tight around the corners here as he pulls up next to Trevor's old house. He stops the tractor and hops out. Trevor's just gone next door to sort some stuff out, and the young man is standing with a cup of tea. Thomas," says the young man, "is everything okay? I hope we haven't messed up your plans." "Oh no, not at all," says Thomas, "but I do have to get back up the road for feeding, so I was wondering if one of you could give me a lift, and actually, then, I checked it over with my dad, and he's okay if we leave the Massey here overnight, and you guys can do some of the wrapping if you want. You don't have to do it all." Like, the young man grins. Really? I mean, that would be amazing. I'll get Trevor to give you a lift up to your farm, and I'll crack on with some baling, and we'll try and get some of the wrapping done, but we'll be careful with your machine, I promise. "Oh, I know you will," says Thomas. That's grand. At that point, Trevor's just going back, "What's up, laddie?" And the young man quickly explains that Thomas needs to get back up for feeding and milking, so if Trevor doesn't mind giving him a lift. "Oh, of course not. Let's get underway, Thomas." So Trevor and Thomas heads off to the car, while the young man just takes a moment to admire the very large tractor. The young man takes a moment to admire the new tractor, but he better get out of the way because Trevor and Thomas are heading off. The young man is studying the Massey Ferguson, and he can't help but climb in and take a look. He's driven this tractor before when he went up and helped Henry and Thomas with the harvest a while back, and he thinks it would actually be a good idea right now to take it up to the field. He'll crack on with the baling, but at least then he can get straight over to wrapping afterwards. So he starts up the tractor, and he's just about to head off when up the road comes a white car at some speed and jams on the brakes, pretty much blocking the road. The young man looks a bit startled. He was almost just about to pull out with the tractor. "Oh, whoa," he says. "It would not have been good if I damaged this machinery. I better back up a bit and see who it is." The young man jumps out. And out of the car steps the solicitor. "Ah, it's good I caught you, young man," says the solicitor. "Oh, hello," says the young man. Do you mind waiting just a moment? I better switch the engine off." He climbs over. He doesn't want to be wasting fuel. And he leads the solicitor over to the factory. "Yeah, sorry about that. So, what can I do for you?" "Yes, well, we have been having some discussions with the insurance company. It turns out, of course, that the farm building was insured." "Yes," says the young man. Finally paying all those bills has worked out, I guess." He tries with a careful little grin. The solicitor looks nonchalantly at him and kind of sniffs the air with a seeming disapproval. "Yes, well, you may think this is all very amusing, having destroyed significant parts of the property. As it turns out, the insurance is for the owner of the farm, and since you are not currently in possession of the deeds, I think you know what this means." "What?" says the young man. But there's insurance. There's enough to build it up. I mean, it was an old building. It fell apart." "Be that as it may," says the solicitor, "it simply turns out that this is a transaction that will go into our care, and frankly, it seems that you have failed to meet the requirements of running the farm for the year. Well, you've frankly destroyed more of the farm than you've been running it." The young man gets a sinking feeling, and his voice sings, But I've worked so hard. I am working so hard." "Yes, well," says the solicitor. "Oh, it's not all lost, of course. Who knows? In acknowledgement of the efforts that, after all, you have put in, and I suppose at least the livestock has survived your rather amateurish attempts here at farming," snorts the solicitor angrily at him. "We will give you a grace period of a couple of weeks to get your business sorted out, and, well, you know, if somebody was to offer a purchase, I'm sure that maybe, say, half of the purchase value could still fall to you." The young man gets a sinking. You serious? I don't get to keep the farm?" "No, I'm afraid not. This really is the final straw." Helen is walking up the road, just waving at her sheep. She's feeling good. She's been in town and she's managed to sell some more of her art. And things are actually going really well, and it looks like by the looks of all those wrapped up silage bales over there, it's been a pretty good day here on the farm, but she sees a white car and a strange tractor parked up, and as she steps closer, she sees the suited man, the young man, with an expression she hasn't seen on his face, like everything is just crumbled around him. Hi, she says. Is everything okay? The young man looks over to Helen. It's gone, he says. It's all gone. He looks back at the solicitor. Helen also looks at the solicitor. Felix? She says. Oh, well, hello there, Helen. What brings you to this farm? The young man sharply turns around to him. You know him? Yeah, Felix here. This man here. That's Councillor Chalmers' son. The young man looks back. What? Is this some kind of stitch-up? Helen stands close to the young man. Yes. What is going on here, Felix? Well, the decision is final. It has been agreed with the partners of the solicitor's company. Well, it looks like I will be back in a couple of weeks to wrap up business. Helen, it was lovely to see you. And without further ado, the man basically flees back into his car, and in fact he doesn't even bother trying to turn around. He just reverses like a crazy man straight down the road and out onto the road without even checking for traffic, and speeds off in an awful hurry. What was that all about? Says Helen to the young man, who still looks completely stone-faced. Well, he's just told me that it's all over. I've lost the farm because of the shed that collapsed and things. And looks and hugs the young man. This can't be right. This can't be the end of Ballincraig estate, she says. I'm afraid it is, says the young man. Well, for me, I guess. And, well, he did say that there might be an option to sell the farm. That's a stitch-up, wheezes Helen. I told you, it's the councillor's son. They've cooked something up together. You mark my words. Well, maybe, says the young man. But what can I do? I'm just a young man on a small farm that isn't even mine. I gotta get up to the field, he says. Our friends Henry and Thomas still needs their payment, and I need to be getting on with the work. The young man, with heavy steps, climbs towards the tractor that a few minutes ago was such an excitement to have here on the farm. And that's where we're going to leave today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for watching from Overcord Gaming, and see you again soon.